Welcome to Who's Who in San Pedro, a weekly program designed to introduce you or familiarize you more to those making a difference and having an impact in our community, our town, and our nation. Join us now for today's edition with your host, Clive Welsh.
Welcome to another edition of Who's Who in San Pedro. My name is Clive Welsh, Director and General Manager of Lighthouse Christian Radio, and I'm really honored to have in studio with me Angel Nunez, a name that's familiar to everyone here, or most people here on the island, but we want to get to know the man, the educator, the community leader, the author, and the legacy. As most of you perhaps know the name quite familiar with it, but there are a lot of people new to the island, and myself included would love to hear a little bit more about the man, the history. So we welcome you to Lighthouse Christian Radio, Angel, on this edition of Who's Who in San Pedro.
Thank you very much, Clive.
Sir, can you tell us first about just a little bit about yourself and your history? Like, for instance, where you were born and a little bit about your growing up experiences?
Okay. Delighted to. I was born in San Pedro, 1950. My father was a fisherman, and I grew up helping him in the fishing industry. Those were some very cherished, memorable moments of my life. Actually, I have seen San Pedro go through 3 generations. I like to refer it as the generation of the thatch houses, then the reformation into the wooden houses, which we considered very modern and elaborate at that time. And then the 3rd generation, the concrete buildings and the new developments as we see today.
Okay.
3 generations.
And so you grew up on the island and you were educated here in San Pedro?
I was educated in San Pedro and then went to Belize City and then did some formal training abroad in Michigan. But I have practically spent all my life in San Pedro. And I am married. I'm the father of 2, a boy and a girl. Grandfather of only 1, unfortunately. I wish I could have more because they're a lot of fun. And in that course of time, I spent 38 years teaching and managing at the high school.
Okay. And how long have you been married, Angel?
I was married in 1973, which makes me 39 this year.
Oh, congratulations.
39 on December 15th.
Right. And as we'll take a break here talking about marriage, what is some of the greatest highlights in your married life?
Every year has been a highlight. Every year has been enjoyable, has been different. Of course, the birth of my children, I don't really know the exact dates. The birth of my children in the 1970s, I think it's 76 and 79 or thereabouts, were great moments because it unites the family so much more. But I have been very fortunate to have chosen a very special companion, and she is a good friend, a good housewife. She loves to travel, and I love to travel. She loves shopping, and I love shopping. She loves parties, not excessively, but she enjoys socializing, and I enjoy that myself. So we have been so compatible, and marriage to me has been like a breeze, 39 years seems like a long time, and to me it really feels like 10 or 15 years of marriage.
Right. And what would you say as a word of encouragement to young people today who are contemplating marriage, or perhaps those who are not?
To those contemplating marriage, I see a tendency today of young people who want to live together before they get into marriage. I strongly discourage that. Living together is just a very fragile relationship. Marriage is a firm commitment, and I encourage young people to date 2-3 years, whatever it takes, to know each other well. Living together does not necessarily mean that you are learning more about the other person. Living together is just a sexual relationship, and for some people, a safety relationship where they find peace, protection, and somebody to provide economically,
Without any commitment.
Without any commitment. But I see marriage as a very good tool to add more commitment to the relationship. Some people like to say, well, marriages don't work. You end up divorcing. Well, look at the majority of cases. Not the majority of cases end up divorcing.
Exactly.
And those who have found out that they are in a marriage family maybe that have had divorces, I still say marriage is not the cause of the divorce.
Right.
There is nothing wrong with the sacrament of matrimony.
Exactly.
Well, in the religious perspective, there's also the civil marriages. Even that is a more stable commitment. Nothing is wrong with matrimony. Something was wrong with one of the couples or both of the couples who did not learn to complement each other's lives, who did not learn to find that compatibility and that companionship. They love each other,
Right.
but they did not attach themselves so much that they end up divorcing. Something was wrong with one or both in the couple,
Right.
not with marriage.
And Angel Nunez, as the man, you are a great supporter of marriage,
Of course.
and you've seen it work from practical
My marriage
experience.
works. I've seen most of my family's marriages work. I support marriage wholeheartedly because, first of all, you receive the blessings. You make a serious commitment. And whenever there are problems, you think of tackling the problems rather than running away from the relationship, as young people tend to do so much today. And even some older folks, they say, well, this is the end of it. I cannot fix my problems. I believe that the blessings of God, if we really love each other, does allow us to solve our problems.
Right. And now, Angel Nunez, as a father, what are some of the most memorable lessons that you have learned as a father?
As a father, spending a lot of quality time with my children, that has been most important, because during that time I was able to show them through my example and my advice what the morals and ethics and values are in family life and in raising up children. My families and my children learn a lot from both mom and dad through just quality time. They learn a lot in high school, they learn a lot in church, but the family time is very precious. I made sure I had a lot of it with my children. And during that time, Clive, I made sure that we become very good friends. You cannot raise a child in the strictest military style of do, and don't. You need to become a good friend of your children, and when they grow up, they'll be so attached to you and to others because they will show that love, that relationship with others around them. So that is very special for me to have become a friend of my children and to grow up in a most open manner in which they can come to me with their problems and say, Dad, I'm facing this problem. How do I deal with it? And if I know how to, give them good advice.
And now, with that friendship, Angel, did you see the fine line between the discipline and the friendship, or was because of the friendship it really assisted in the discipline?
Yes, you're so right. Because of the friendship, there is very little need to do strict, hard discipline like don't do this and don't do that. It grows, it instills in them that wanting to do things the right way as the family sees it. I can boast that I have never, ever whipped my children. Never, ever. Because there was no need. There was need to reprimand, there was need to correct, there was need to advise and coax, but never a need to, this is terribly wrong, here's your whipping to learn from it. There was no need for it.
Right.
And I'm not saying that families should not whip.
Right.
Sometimes a little spanking does give the message to the children if they're really, really getting off sidetracked, But there's no need for harsh whipping and that kind of disciplining. Or these curfews that some people talk about where they say you're not going to get out of your room for a month. That's not helping.
Yeah.
I believe that there should be some measures to withdraw some of their fun activities, but lock them up in prison will not inculcate the values that you want them. You need to inculcate values to your children, to society, to your students, to your neighbors, through your example.
Okay. And now, Angel, as you as not only a man but an educator, can we now focus a little bit about
Of course.
your years of education personally, and then what you've done in return?
Okay. Well, I founded, along with a partner of mine, San Pedro High School in 1971. One of the reasons, I will be very fair with it, I didn't have any other job. And there was no other job available in San Pedro for a person with my education. So did I want to go fishing? I liked fishing, but I didn't want that to be my profession. So I looked around, I said, teaching would be good. And I went to teach at the elementary school for a year. I enjoyed it thoroughly. During that time, I did some self-evaluation of my island and myself, and I noticed that at that time there were an average of 2 persons from San Pedro going to high school to further their education. The other 98% became fishermen and housewives at the age of 15. And I saw a trend. This needs to be changed. We cannot keep on making more fishermen at age 14 when they have to leave primary school. And I thought only 2% are going to get an education. We need to bring education to San Pedro. And that's how the idea was created. And we opened the San Pedro High School with a student enrollment of 20 students. 20. It was very challenging, financially especially. It was very challenging to become accepted because, the Bible says no prophet shall be respected in his own hometown. So we had a challenge to say this high school can be as good as any other from the city. And it took about 4 years to do that. It took a generation of graduation, and people saw that graduation was meaningful for the graduates. Fortunately, tourism was beginning just about the same time. So there was a need of a lot of graduates to work in the offices around San Pedro. And for about 20, 25 years, San Pedro students had no competition in getting jobs. 100% of our graduates could easily go to a job.
Wow.
As a matter of fact, it was a deterrent from them to continuing studies, which we also thought was a little problem because we're graduating students and nobody wants to continue because they have an immediate job. And we wanted to continue to at least to the college level, right? Well, we did manage that eventually.
And your first teachers, you and your partner taught?
Yes, we taught. I taught 6 hours a day. And my partner, and every year we grew in our teaching population. Our first teachers were all students from the island who had graduated and came back, and we wanted a job too, and they liked teaching. It was very challenging. You want to hear my salary in my first year teaching?
I bet it's a 3 or 4 figure number, right?
$150 a month, not a week.
Okay. Wow.
But we survived, and it was challenging. We had to stick with it for the love of it, not really for the money. But anything that persists is good. And we persisted, and the salary got better. It was not the most lucrative salary in the world, but it was comfortable. And the love for the kids is what maintained me in school, because after graduating a group of kids, you become attached to them. They never quit calling you maestro up till this day. To see their successes is a motivation to keep on with the school. And I saw all my graduates, with exception of 1 or 2, not becoming fruitful citizens in the society, in the community. But their successes encouraged me to keep on with it. And I managed to stay on for 38 years.
38.
In the
so
job.
You started teaching, and then you moved up into the leadership and principal role?
Yes, I moved into the principal role 3 years after we started the high school, before graduation, before the first graduation. The principal, actually, I was not training to be principal. I was just vice principal or whatever. He had to leave. When he left, the board just came straight forward to me and said, Angel, are you ready to step onto this horse and take on the reins? I said, well, I've been making it, and I will do it if you promise me support. I never can ever forget the support I got from my board, particularly the chairperson of the board, Miss Sally McCurkle, who was well off And he said, Angel, just make Holiday Hotel your office at your full disposition. Anything you need, you can count on this office. And that made my job much easier.
Right. And where were you meeting at the time for the high school?
Our school was housed at the now town hall.
Okay.
At that time, it was called the community center because it was built by the villagers. And it only had one room upstairs. And every year, we added another little room. We enclosed the downstairs and made 2 more rooms. We built a little Celotex, not even plywood, building on the side, and that added another room. And then at the graduation time, we needed another room, a 3rd room, and we don't have one. So we looked around right where Aliqua building is, and there was a little wooden structure that was falling apart, and it used to be the Alamia's vacation home, and they were not using it, so we borrowed it from them, and they were gracious enough to lend us the building, and that became our rooms for the seniors. So right there, we had 4 rooms to complete our 4 years. So we had now a cycle that we can continue rotating students. When we needed 1 more room at one time, we borrowed the priest's rectory. He lived upstairs and downstairs was not used. We borrowed his downstairs. I remember running a cable from the town hall to the parish hall where we had a classroom to put our speakers so we can communicate with our students and so they know that I'm watching them, But our teacher was always present. And we used that room also for an extension. And that said, okay, you need a new school building. And we started fundraising. And I garnered support from all over the community, from abroad, from Lions, from friends who had been our sponsors. And we started raising funds for the high school, 1981, more or less. And we opened our new doors of the present building, 1 floor only, 1988.
And you maintained a principal?
Yes, I was principal throughout that time.
Okay.
I had a building committee that was very influential in seeking funds and raising funds and soliciting, begging from all corners, and we were able to complete the first floor, 4 classrooms and 1 principal's office. Oh my, that was a principal's office right in front of the sea and spacious. As my first office was half of this, or 1/3 of this.
Studio. Oh, wow. And so you started off with 12 students, and today
we have over 500.
500. And you're still actively involved in the school? Even
Well, I retired from the school, Clive. Actually, I fell ill, and the doctor said I had to retire. I had to leave the school, the administration actually. So I was invited to be a part of the school board, and I'm still an active member of the school board. The vice principal, who is now the principal, contacts me very, very, very frequently for advice, for how to do things, and he's doing a good job. I warned him, I want you to do me a good favor, just keep the school growing. I don't want to hear anything about it going downhill. And he's doing a good job. The school is still growing. You mentioned the word legacy. I think that is my dreamt legacy for San Pedro, to have a school that is well functioning and has ability to grow. In the time that I have left, just before I left, we started the junior college program, the 2-year program, and that is going on in full swing right now. Last 2 years ago, I started helping them through my being in the board with new building, because they do need new building, and I am a builder. I am a builder by hobby, and I love to see the school growing physically. So I was able to garner some support from the minister, and we have already inaugurated another building only for the 6th form, which is also being used by the high school.
Great.
The Manuel Heredia building.
And now let's take a little change of focus now. Let's talk about Angel Nunez, the community leader. You have been a part of this community for quite some time, and also in leadership, correct?
Yes, I have been in some leadership. Actually, my first leadership role began when I was in high school, along with the Honorable Minister and Area Rep Heredia. We were going to school together at that time, and the priest asked us to build him a fence around the rectory. Same building there. It had no fence. And he and I went around and we got some posts and got some lumber on the beach, wherever we could go beach combing, and we built him a fence. And he liked it, and we liked the feeling also of his gratitude to us. He was testing us as high school students at SJC, where he taught, Father Raskowski. And then Junior and I formed a little group called the Action Committee. And we said, let's do some little action work in San Pedro. We built some concrete benches. We built a stage. We raised the level of the park called at that time and made it a good basketball court. And we started working in that respect. And then early in my years as principal of the high school, the village council invited me to be the secretary of the village council. So I entered into that civil service, political kind of service, working along with the late Mr. Staines as village council secretary and then treasurer. From there, we looked for township. I was in the group with Mr. Gilberto Gomez and a few others, Chico Gomez, who saw the need for township around 1981, just around independence. And by 1984, we had elevated San Pedro from the village status to township. That's when I really got into public service as a councillor, deputy mayor, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. I served in the town board, town council for 9 years, 3 political terms, and to tell you the truth, I thoroughly enjoyed it, but I quit it. I intentionally quit it because of 2 reasons. It involved the politics. It was different from the village council. The town council involves heavy politicking. And I noticed that as principal, some parents were drawing away from me instead of coming closer to me with school-related matters. And I thought this is not healthy. Principal and then in politics. Not in the town council, but in politics.
And you were still teaching while
I was
you
still
were
teaching.
involved.
I was still principal, and I found this at distance. And that was one of the reasons I decided, no, I got to quit politicking. And then the second one, the election campaigns got very dirty and nasty, and I don't like that. And I thought, no, I'm not going to campaign one more year if they will be on our stage saying things about the incompetence of the others, and on their stage saying the incompetence of ours, including me and my good friends, saying, no, Angel Nunez is he. They cannot call me a thief because I'm not. They cannot call me lazy because I'm not. But they can find something to say. And even if it's not true, it hurts. Especially because your students, the parents are listening to such things. And 1991, I decided, this is it, I quit.
So priority for you was teaching and educating rather than...
I gave that up for teaching.
And Angel, I'm sure many people are grateful for that decision you made because of the fruit that followed.
Well, during that time, I did a lot of community work. As an announcer, I was involved in sports, all kind of,
so you
weekly
had
activities.
plenty to keep you busy.
Plenty to keep me busy, mostly with the microphones.
Right. And now let's think another switch to Angel Nunez, the author. You have authored one book and you're working on a second one?
Yes, Clive. Actually, my writing began in 1991 when the San Pedro Sun, under the leadership of Bruce Collins. I don't think you met them.
No.
The Collins were here and they were running the San Pedro Sun. And they invited me to do a column, and they said, what can you write, Angel? And, through brainstorming with them, we came up with the idea, let's write a column about the history of San Pedro, the social life, how it was back then, the culture, to give a comparative view of what it is today. That's 1991. So we decided to call the column 25 years ago. I wrote for the Sun for about 10 years, and then I switched over to my son's newspaper when he opened the Ambergris Today, for many years, and the column 25 years ago is actually still going. It is from that column that my children were encouraging me, Dad, when are you going to write your book and put all of this into book form? And I told them when I retire, because I didn't have enough time when I was principal. And I didn't expect to retire about 5 years ago, but I had to retire, and in my boring moments at home, I said, you know what, this is the time for me to pick up. So I started compiling the ideas, and I didn't want to write it like the 25 years ago, column week by week. So I compiled it in story form, how San Pedro and the people of San Pedro lived, and I came up with 25 years ago.
Well, that's great. This is a great segue because we are going to be having Angel come to our studio and record some of these segments, and we're actually going to have a weekend program called, perhaps we'll call it 25 years ago.
25 years ago.
We'll let you know the exact name, but
Yeah.
Angel will be just rehearsing some of his book and just from his life experience. And the purpose for it, the main purpose, is just so that people can get to know a little bit of history of the island, where the island's been, where it is, and where we hope to take it. And
Yes.
so we're looking forward to that. And Angel, you're a storyteller.
My book goes way back to 1848 when the mestizos were fleeing away, the Mayas were running away from the war in Yucatan and came to San Pedro, and our forefathers started the development of this community with 12 houses, 12 families.
Great. Well, we don't want you to
And
get
from
into
there,
it
you don't want
yet.
me to get,
This is just a preview. We want people to
this is only a teaser. Huh?
a teaser, exactly. So we will be hearing more about this in little short segments, and
Great.
we're really looking forward to not just for the older generation to be refreshed in their memory
Yeah.
of what took place, but to educate the new generation, upcoming generation, just so that they know some of the history of their island.
Okay, I will gladly do that with you.
We're really looking forward to that, Angel. And as I mentioned earlier, you're a definite storyteller. You don't put anyone to sleep. You keep us alert, and you always come in with just life experiences that you have learned.
Yes.
So we've covered
Thank
Angel,
you.
the man, the educator, the community leader,
The writer.
the author, and now Angel, in closing.
Not to cut you off, you did mention about another book. Actually, I have two books that I have already written. One of them I was commissioned to write it.
Okay.
Maybe I can give the name of the book.
Sure.
It's called Nature and the Mayan Boy. Nature and the Mayan Boy. It's an icon in San Pedro.
Okay.
And
So you'll be discussing that also in the program.
of course,
Eventually.
no problem.
Great. And now, Angel, what would you say is your greatest desire to leave as a legacy when you move on? Not only as a man, as an educator, community leader, and an author, but what do you want to be known as when you leave this life? What's your legacy?
What do I want to be known as? I want to be known as a person who can make a difference in anybody's life. My family, my children, the students who were tutored by myself and the high school program, and students who will continue to attend high school and the junior college and UB, because we're also offering UB courses right now, to be able to say, well, Mr. Nunez was part of this, and I'm grateful for that. I don't need to be thanked, just the fact that I'm happy knowing that I have made a difference in people's lives.
Yeah, I have a personal motto that says "Lives touching lives," and
That's a good motto.
You have touched many lives, and just out of curiosity, would you have any figure of how many students that was under your principalship, if you might use that word, over the years that you
Yes,
were?
I was doing some calculation of average classes. It's over 1,500 that have graduated. Like you say, they're always calling me maestro. And some of them lose their diplomas and they go to the high school to buy another diploma, actually,
Get a copy.
to get a copy. And they tell the administration, can I get Mr. Nunez to sign my diploma? Even though he's not in school, and the principal sends them over to me to get their diplomas signed.
Oh, that's great.
So I think that's something meaningful for them, and it means something to me also.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, well now, Angel, we would like to take a look now at the meeting we had last night.
Oh, the
Since
meeting last night.
You were the moderator for that, and it was titled the police department consultation meeting, or
It's a consultation, actually.
community meeting.
Yeah.
And you had the honor of moderating that. What are some of the highlights that you feel came from that meeting?
Right. I think there are one or two highlights. The very first one is the attendance. I have seen many. I moderated the past one for the mayor when he presented his financial report, and there were 12 people present.
Wow.
And he and I talked about it. He said, what is wrong with our people in San Pedro? So he did a little invitation, and And there was very, very good attendance last night, including the student body.
Right.
We had over 300 people there last night. That told me something. It told me that people are passionate about this particular topic, crime. So that is a highlight in itself. People did show last night that they're very passionate about not crime, but eliminating crime and bringing that happiness, which I introduced it as. This is a meeting for happiness. We want to live happily in San Pedro, and actually this is the formula to obtain that happiness. I did notice at the beginning, Clive, that the panel was getting on the defensive. And I thought, no, this is not healthy. Or else everyone will go to the microphone and keep attacking and more defense. So I had to kind of interrupt a little rudely. I said, okay, your point is made. Because they were just defensive and not contributing to the questions that were being dealt with. And they're very important questions. So I think I was able to change it from that defensive to, let me listen and take notes and at least say something that will comfort your concerns. Something like, okay, we will look into it.
Right.
Not just like, no, that never happens in my police force.
Yeah.
That's not a good answer.
So it gave the residents of the island to vent some of their frustration, some of their ideas.
Yeah, they were very
some
passionate about it.
Okay.
And they did vent their frustration, their concerns.
Right.
They're very, very, robbery is one of those things that we're all afraid of.
Right.
There was police harassment and disrespect to young girls. They were very strong about that. Bribery, that could be possible because people are complaining that there is bribery. They see that it's visible that the officers are accepting bribe. The solution is raise their salaries so that they have a better living rather than accepting bribes. And I'm sure that's a very good, and it was taken, it was noted, and hopefully something will be done into that.
Right. I know you were, as all of us were, really startled to find out that there were only 32 officers in the department here, and out of the 32, was it
Three
or
are
four
on
duty per shift? And I think we're all startled about that.
Yes, I was very, very startled. As a matter of fact, I had called once in the radio morning show, and I was given a blunt answer. That will never happen. That's what I was told. And I didn't want to bring it up last night because I was the moderator and I didn't want to be influencing those thoughts.
Right.
But the mathematics just don't make sense. If there are 32 officers, 3 are on duty, where are the others? That's just too many resources that are being just, I'm not saying wasted, but not being utilized to the max.
Right, and also the special constable program that they're hoping to add to. Seems like a lot of community interest things are developing.
Yes, there was one presenter that said, I can get 50 people to come and join and do extra things and go. I thought it would be nice to have a very qualified person to sit in the police station and along with the police officer to record statements.
Right.
Because these officers are just not to that level to record statements. They can spell, they can write a decent, fluent sentence. They take hours to do that.
Right.
But I was told that no lay person can do that. But in the presence of the officer, be like a secretary, I'm sure there will be volunteers to be there.
And also to activate the justice of the peace, because they are supposed to be there.
Exactly.
So there's a lot. So a lot of good constructive things came about from
Yes,
last
there were
night.
very good suggestions, very constructive. There was some negative finger pointing at individuals, but I think that is always necessary to tell them, hey, you need to shape up.
Right.
I enjoyed the meeting. I thought it was very fruitful. And then the tone was also very peaceful and fruitful.
Okay. And what are you hoping to come as a result? Because usually you can have a great meeting, people vent their frustration, give suggestion, and then nothing happens.
Like the gentleman said last night, I have done all my due diligence. I have sent letters to this, to that, to that, even the Prime Minister, and I have not gotten a response. And it was 5 years ago.
Wow.
So are we going to wait now for 5 years to see action? I suggested last night that since the meeting was fruitful, that I did see the panel taking notes, and the mayor was excellent in saying, I am going to deal with matters now, and I'm going to get into full throttle. He says he's going on idle throttle. I think he's working very, very well. He's going strongly. And if he's going to go in full throttle now, he will be excellent. I'm hoping, like I suggested, that, okay, for the next month, let's see if there is a change in attitude and the perception that we see the members of the police force and the leadership of the police force, not necessarily the leadership of the town, but the police force in specific. And let us hope that we see some positive change, because happiness is a motivation that looks for positive change. You know, if my wife and I are not happy about a little thing, we need to bring a positive change to be happy at home. I need to quit smoking, whatever bothers my wife. I need to be home a little earlier rather than 3 in the morning, you know, if that bothers my wife. Well, what bothers our community also needs that positive change, that social change. And Christmas is coming. I'm hoping to see some of the positive change, even if it means bringing the BDF to do some patrolling. Somebody was calling the Dragon Unit, whatever that is. I'm not so sure. The Dragon Unit, I think, is the one that does the hard drug cases in the city. When we notice the BDF presence in San Pedro, we notice that there is more peace and stability. Everybody sleeps happy. You don't hear about these gun assaults, you know. So I'm hoping to see some of that implemented. If not, it's time to call another consultation.
Yes, and Pastor Ian Saldiva closed the evening off quite well, talking about not dealing with the drainage problem, but to plug the hole. Just dealing with the spiritual
Look for the source.
And that is in the spiritual issues to really take care of that.
Bring God into our lives.
It was a great, great conclusion.
Very, very, very good conclusion.
Well, Angel, in closing off, I would like for you to speak specifically to a young person, as an educator, as a father, as a man, community leader. What would you say to young people to really inspire them, or to give them some direction in life?
To young people, I would tell them San Pedro is still a wonderful place to make your home. Local I mean born in San Pedro. National, born anywhere in the country. And a foreigner coming from anywhere abroad. San Pedro is a very good place to make your home. Even though we are saying there is crime, that's because we're not used to it. It's minimal. I shouldn't say this, but it is actually minimal when you compare it to other parts of Belize and other parts of the world. You know? It's very minimal. But we're not used to crime, so whenever it happens, we get frightened, and we want to see solutions. I tell young people, we have good, healthy living in San Pedro. Just make the right choice to live a healthy life. Through education, through family support, through prayers, you can avoid the unhealthy living of mundane activities, drugs, alcohol, party, like Pastor Saldivar mentioned. Everybody celebrates with a party. A christening, a child's christening is celebrated with a party and liquor. We can still save San Pedro. Not everybody does it. So young people, this is a place you can learn to live, reject the unhealthy choices, and choose the healthy choices. There is good physical health facility on the island. Not the best, but good. There's good education. There are jobs. Fortunately, there are many jobs. You can prepare yourselves, train your skills, grow with your skills, and you'll find a job. It's a very healthy community. I think it's not a wise idea to say, I don't want to raise my child in San Pedro. I'm going to take him to Belize City for an education because San Pedro has so much drinking. Let me give you a secret. The drinking problem is not a problem of San Pedro. It's a problem of individual families. Every family can control, can mold, and can coax their children to reject drinking. I mean, there's so many examples of good citizens out there who don't choose that. They have social drinkers. They take a wine or two at a special event. I take a wine or two at a special event. Not beer because I don't like beer, plain and straight. But it has never been a problem to a lot of people I know. So young people, I'm saying this because I have had some parents, one or two tell me, no, I will send my kids to Belize City because teenagers drink too much in San Pedro. They have just arrived to San Pedro and this is their conclusion. No, that's not true. When I used to interview teachers, I used to ask them the same question. Are you a drinker? I know you will tell me no, but I will ask you the question. Are you a drinker? And I put them on the spot to try to find all kind of ways to tell me that yes, they do drink and so. But basically, I'm trying to tell them it's okay to drink, but you got to drink in moderation for a social purpose. I don't want to hear that you're hanging around in the bar because next year I will not sign your contract to teach. I don't want to hear that you're hanging around in a bar and with the excuse that you're playing pool. Plain and straight. Young people, this is a community of nice families. The pace of living is very nice and graceful. We don't have to rush things as in the big cities. And so I welcome them. And the last message to them is there is hope. Regardless of some of the problems we see, I think San Pedro has hope for all of the young people who are going to make this their home. And we hope that they pick up the reins from us and carry on the good works in religion, leadership in politics, teaching, fatherhood and motherhood, and all the leadership areas where San Pedro needs business as well.
Great. Well, Angel, it has been a pure joy and pleasure sitting and talking with you and getting to know you. And I'm sure our listeners have enjoyed this and will enjoy the upcoming program that will be taking place here on Lighthouse Christian Radio. We'd like to thank you very much. You have been listening to another edition of Who's Who in San Pedro, and our special guest for this session was Angel Nunez. Angel, God bless you, and thank you once again.
Thank you very much, Clive. Who's Who in San Pedro? Well, I do not know if that is the status of a celebrity, but I know that I am known in San Pedro. As a matter of fact, I feel shame when so many people say, hello, Mr. Nunez, and I say, who is this? I don't know them, they know me. Right. But yes, there are some people who are newcomers that they know me as Mr. Nunez, but they did not know, my background. So I was glad to share. Thank you for inviting me.
And we really look forward to not only your books, but the program coming up so people will get a deeper insight in San Pedro, this beautiful island, and get the history, really get our foundation, especially for the young people, to really know the foundation they're building on. Once again, thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you, though.
You have been listening to another edition of Who's Who in San Pedro. Join us next weekend as we find out more about those contributing to our town, community, and the nation on Who's Who in San Pedro Town.